Welcome back to the British and Irish Eagles podcast. We are Philly Sports International, and the Eagles are 3-0 as the Birds send the Rams packing back home to Los Angeles with a 33-26 win. That score is slightly deceiving, as most of you, I'm sure, have watched the game will know why. But look, the Eagles had the hardest schedule on paper. We overcame a 19-point deficit, the largest in franchise history at home. And as I say, the Rams go back with the tail wagging lowly on the ground between their legs. I'm joined by Phil Mount Stevens, who I'll bring in a second because huge congratulations to Mick McGivern and the lovely birth of his new daughter, Luna. Mum and baby are doing well. Mick, I know it's day 2 here. So, we know that you'll be tired. We know you'll be sleep deprived, and we know you'll be listening to this podcast maybe with a glass of whiskey later on this evening. If you've had by the sounds of the rough day you've had, maybe that's what you'll be doing. But anyway, without going any further, without any further ado, Phil, how are you, sir? And how are your nerves watching the Eagles play the Rams this weekend?
I mean, yeah, it's one of those games. I feel like we know we could get back into it, but it was getting harder and harder to maintain that. Hell of a game of two halves. I mean, I think we're all still reeling from it. I spent the entire evening just scrolling social media like most people, just drinking it in, because whenever you get sort of like an epic comeback like that, there's usually plenty of receipts mid-game that you can go back through. It's just, yeah, what a game. I think the experience for me was primarily of two halves as well, because I was trying to put my son down to sleep watching the first half, with a bedtime story in one hand and my phone rested on my leg, watching the game, and just progressively getting more frustrated and trying not to take it out on the bedtime story, and then finally getting downstairs, managing to stick my jersey on, and then the Eagles start doing well. Funny enough, once again, Phil doesn't have his game day jersey on to start the game,
Ooh,
and the Eagles don't do
that's
very
gotta
well.
become a bit of a ritual now, Phil. Right? You're gonna have to start implementing this.
I'm going to have to start making sure I've got my jersey on to start the game, regardless of what the reason is. But I just didn't get a chance, and I thought, so it's fine. Everything will be fine. It'll
But
be
if you
fine.
have your jersey on at the start of the next game and we lose, I'm holding you personally accountable for that loss.
I need to have it off so that if they start poorly, I need to change. Is that what you're trying to
Yeah,
say?
that's what I'm trying to
Right.
get at. Yeah, yep. Yeah, all these superstitions. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, or this isn't sugarcoated. That was one of the best days of my life. That day was unbelievable. Um, from start to finish, witnessing that moment in the stadiums. By the way, Phil, I'm very happy to say this, but I couldn't look, so I turned around for the field goal at the end of the game, because I was watching for the reaction of everyone.
That's your new tradition then. So you
It is, yeah, it
you got
is. But
you got to be there, but you're not allowed to actually watch the games.
well, pivotal moments perhaps. Um, but I will shout out to Katie, my wife. We have this thing. We had this thing from years ago where we used to watch the golf. It's a very silly thing where if there was a golfer we didn't like, who was about to putt, we would go, boo his miss, boo his miss, boo his miss, boo his miss, all the way up until they missed. So the first field goal that was missed, Katie turns to me and she goes, boo his miss. And it was just out of nowhere. I was like, where's it come? I was like, I'm not sure it'll work. And then I went, all right, let's go for a kid. Let's go. I was like, boo his miss, boo his miss. And then he missed. And I picked Katie up in the air and limbs were
Oh
flying
man.
everywhere. And then towards the end of the game, Katie did the same again. And I was obviously looking away. And then as soon as I saw the reaction on the faces, I was just, "Whoa!" And everyone was like, turn around, because obviously Jordan Davis had then scooped the ball up. And for those of you listening, and if you don't know what we're talking about, where the hell have you been? And obviously ran record-breaking miles per hour down to the end zone, and it it felt like the Revertal game where Barkley did Revertal. It felt like the Jake Elliott field goal game, like obviously top 3 games I've ever been to, by far. Better than like when we beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship, because when there's a moment like that that takes you to a place of elation that you don't get very often in life, it's just I can't the endorphins, like the rush, the thrill, the walking out of the stadium thinking, what have I just witnessed? Like what how did we win that game of football? It just sends you into a great mood for the rest of the day, and just what a moment. And they keep happening. I text Jordan Spector after the game because I saw Jordan at the Philly Sports Trips tailgate. Shout out to Philly Sports Trips again. Wonderful spread and tailgate that they put on today. And I was chatting to Jordan. I was chatting to Hollis, and all the guys. And um, Uncle Tony was there, and Uncle Tony was like, how often do you like release a new piece of art? And he said, oh, he said it could take 6 or 7 days just to draw one. So not very often. I said, well, there's a lot at the moment. So I texted him after the game and I went, gonna have to draw Jordan Davis, aren't you? And he was like, I think so. So you can probably expect to see that coming at some point in the future. It was what a moment, Phil. I mean, what was it like at home? Were you jumping around the room? Were you?
Um, yeah. So, unlike being there in person,
Yeah.
where you've kind of got the real time, there's no spoilers.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury, do we, back in the
Oh
UK?
no! Oh
And
no!
towards the end, as because it was always going in the right direction, you kind of
Yeah.
glance at your phone and someone's going, yeah, yes. And you're like, oh, good, something good's happening.
Mm.
And then, the closer you get to the clock running down to zero, you sort of don't want to look at your phone because
No.
you know that if
Yeah.
it's bad, that's it. Like the
Yep.
game's over, and you don't want to read the game being over on your phone. So I
Yeah.
actually turned my phone notifications off. I literally was, no, I don't want to, because my watch would pick it up if even
Yep.
if my phone's down. So I was like, no, no, I can't watch this. But for some reason, I was like a minute behind. The design streams, I think for a lot of people was down. Mine must have been like a minute
Okay.
behind, about 2 plays behind. And then
Right.
some nothing was coming up on my phone, and I was like, I kind of glanced. I opened up my phone. I was like, "What's going on? I can't. This is killing me." Because they iced the kicker twice, didn't they?
Yeah.
They called a timeout. We called a timeout for some reason, and then nothing was coming through. And then people would say, like, the message started coming through about something good had happened, and I was like, I didn't know whether to believe it or not. And I sort of asked the question. I said, like, "I'm really behind. What's happened?" And someone put in the message, blocked field goal return for a touchdown. I was like, "You're pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
having my
Yeah.
pants
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not like someone's like in the heat of the moment of the epic defeat that we've just suffered has the
Uh-huh.
goals to try and wind the group chat." And I was like, I can't buy by this. And then obviously
No.
I watched it unfold, and it was like watching it live because you just in
Yeah.
utter disbelief. There was no like, I know what's coming. It's like, what is happening here? And Mick didn't even realise that we'd returned it for a touchdown. I think he
Well, I didn't until he was pretty much in the end zone and I was in the stadium.
because
Because it was it was an after like the touchdown. As much as it's amazing, like the play was the play was the block field goal.
well,
Like
you,
that
well,
that
you
that was
get
the play. Yeah.
yeah, well, you often find like, defenses run to the end zone when they've done
Yeah.
something good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I can completely understand why 90% of people didn't
Yeah.
see the touchdown because they thought, oh, he's blocked it, he's down, ball's
Yep.
ours. He's just run to the end zone just to celebrate the fact that he's blocked the field goal. And yeah,
Yep.
so it's like I think it's just taken everybody so long to process it. And I think I spent the rest of the evening, like I said, scrolling through social media and working my way around the 360-degree angle of the stadium because there's just so many reaction videos.
Yep.
I was
Yep.
sort of from the end zone to the
Yeah.
away side, the road, the home side, and all in between. And you're just like, I could watch this all day long.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest plays in Philadelphia sports history. Certainly, the Eagles' history. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's up there with the miracle. It's a Meadowland. It's up there. It's up there with the revertal. It's up there with Jake Elliott's kick, double doink. It's like when you think of the great Eagles plays, and there's been a lot the last few years. It's up there, and it's why we've started this podcast, like not really talking about stats or like information or feedback. You just need a moment to just take this in. God knows how many episodes we've done now, and that's a special moment in the Eagles franchise history, and it was just a special day. I still can't quite believe it. I remember before it, I was thinking, oh man, that sucks. Like, Jalen put us on his back. We got all the way down there, and now we're going to lose to a
Yeah,
field goal in the last second. And then Katie brought me back in. She was like, "No, boo his miss, boo his miss." I was kind of like, and then I was
He
just
is
like, "You know what?
missing
I'm
it.
all in. I'm all in. Let's go. Let's go." And the whole stadium was like, you
It
know,
yeah,
it
I
felt like people knew what was going to happen.
yeah, like I
Like,
said, watching all the reaction videos, it's like there doesn't
but
really
I
feel
didn't think it was going to happen. To be clear, I was just
no.
like I was caught up in the emotion of it. Like, the logic of the whole scenario to me was like, well, he's not going to have two blocked punts in a game, let alone one to win 44 yards out. Like he might miss it, maybe, but not many kickers these days miss
Yeah,
kicks from inside 50 yards, right?
you're not expecting like history to repeat itself in the
Yeah.
same game like it did. But like you saying you didn't think that. Obviously, no one's going to admit that they knew it was going to happen. But you just watch back some of the
It
videos,
felt like
especially
the stadium
e-
thought it was going to happen.
in the
Yeah.
Erox video. I think he's got his son, and he's sort of focusing on his son before he does it, and his son just seems like he's doing the tipped. Um,
He knows he's gonna
he knew
miss. Yeah.
it's like it just feels like there was just that surreal sort of
Yeah.
supernatural
It was weird.
feeling that was going on. Yeah, it's yeah, man, just
I'm gonna have to I'm seriously gonna have to get in touch with the Eagles, Phil. I'm 13-0. I'm
absolutely.
13-0 watching the Eagles. I texted Spadero and Jamal the day afterwards, hungover as hell, probably still drunk texting him to be honest. And I told him at the 13-0, and Dave was like, "Keep it going." Jamal said it was one of the craziest games he's ever witnessed in person.
I would love to get Jamal's thoughts on Jalen, that little Jalen Kevin Patullo Jamal video that's out there.
Oh no, I've not seen that.
I mean, I do. I could message him, but I don't think he'll get back to me. You've got more of
Nah,
a response, and he's not going to let you know
sure he would.
anyway.
He's
But
always asking about you.
there's three people in that conversation, and one of them we have the personal line to. So I'm so tempted just to go. What was Jalen saying in that moment? I think it was around just after halftime, and Jalen's going nuts, hyping him up, kicking off. Who knows? Jamal knows.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that to Jamal in season. Maybe when I see him, I'm gonna have to find a time to bring him his goodies that Tony Burton kindly brought over. By the way, Tony did a good job. He brought some
That that
serious.
is a good opportunity to get the answer. Here's your
Well,
chocolate.
that's when
What
we got
happened in that
that's
conversation,
that's
Jamal?
when we got the answer about what did Jalen say? What did Saquon and Jalen say before the snow run? Right, that was
Hmm.
when we so maybe that's the chance whenever we do. But all right, listen, look, we better get into the podcast. Before we do, I just want to shout out to two of our incredible sponsors. First of all, Passion Avenue, who host all of our watch-alongs, and our members get discounts for food and drink there. Go there for your cheesesteaks, your wings, your beers, your PBRs, your picklebacks. Just go and make friends. If you're an Eagles fan and you don't have anything to watch a game with, go there. You'll make friends. Some of our people will be there, no doubt, every week, and we also do watch-alongs. And a special shout out to Loch Lomond Whiskies. And I am now in possession of the new Philly Sports International Loch Lomond 12-year-old. Yes, that's an upgrade from previous years, from 10-year-old. 12-year-old perfectly balanced Loch Lomond whiskey. This whiskey, for those listening in the US, goes for about $70 if you're buying it outright. So it's a high end quality whiskey, and I thought it only fitting because we didn't have the Loch Lomond ad read this week, not using our using a new platform to try a little tipple with you, sir, while we're on the podcast.
Little tipple.
It's not very little, is it?
I just
And
want to
it's
say, Tony, I know you'll be listening to this on the way back, but the fact that Liam has got a bottle of this before either me or Mick, highly unacceptable, and I'll be having words when you get back to the UK.
oh, so smooth, so delicious. Had with plenty of ice, which is my go-to. I know Mick will be turning in his grave or turning in his bed hearing that. What a beautiful whiskey! These are now available to be bought as well. So if you're interested in buying a Loch Lomond limited special edition Philly Sports International whiskey, we'll read a bit of a blurb out here. PSI and Loch Lomond whiskey is the spirit of Philadelphia sports. Loch Lomond Whiskies are delighted to release the limited edition whiskey in partnership with Philly Sports International. This carefully selected whiskey is the perfect drink for all fans of Philadelphia sports teams wherever you are in the world. Loch Lomond 12-year-old is a perfect representation of our signature style, delivering delicious notes of peach and pear, layered with vanilla sweetness and a gentle hint of smoke on the finish. Not as eloquently delivered as our co-podcaster Mick, but I did my best, Tony. Shout out to Loch Lomond, one of the best whiskies in the world.
Yeah, I look forward
All
to
right.
trying that.
Oh yes, and I will say there might also be a couple of bottles of Ben Lomond over on that table as well. Yeah, just saying. Good stuff. All right, let's get into my personal favorite part of the podcast because I get to say this: the good, the bad, and the damn right sexy. And there's a lot of good this week, but there's some bad, and I kind of like getting the bad out of the way first because then we can just go and enjoy all of the positive plays that we witnessed this weekend. Obviously, we talked about some of these already. I'm gonna go. No, everyone's going offensive play calling. I bet every podcast is. I'm going Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby. Catch the fucking ball, man. What are you? Literally, I've been listening to all these other sports beat writers and people giving justification for the significant pay to bring Tank Bigsby into the link into the Eagles organization. And a lot of the talk has been around his punt returning and kickoff return capabilities, his ability to hit home runs. And now with the new rules in the NFL, you know, where they're trying to encourage these runs, it's going to be a more valuable roster spot, shall we say, Phil, for someone like this. Even if you're a good running back, if you can return the ball, that puts you up a little bit like a safety or a linebacker who's on the fringes but is really good on special teams. Similar with Tank Bigsby at the running back spot. You had one job, buddy. Catch the ball, man. Jeez. And the thing is, like, they weren't really difficult balls to catch. If you look at it, certainly the first one, he's so excited that he's literally like sprinting to catch the ball, and he's going so fast. Like he's not in a stable, static position when he catches the ball. I'm sure. I remember watching it like live. I've not gone back to look at it, but I remember him. I remember going, "Slow down, bud. You're gonna get there." And then obviously he fumbled it and then he fumbled it again afterwards. And oh my God, you want to hear the noise in the stadium. The loudest boos of the day were those two plays. And then I don't think I've ever heard a boo like it when Kevin Petula called that third down and long run up the middle for Saquon Barkley after the first two had been stuffed at the line early in the first half. I was booing loudly. This is me, one of the most positive Eagles fans there is probably in the world, and I was booing like loudly. And Tony looked at me and went, "Oh, you're a Philadelphia booer now." I was like, "I guess so." That was awful. So I've just given you two there. Start with Tank Bigsby and then talk to him about KP and let's get into that offensive play calling conversation.
Yeah, it's like I said last week. It's one of the more bizarre situations around the Eagles when we traded for him, what we gave up for him, and then he played no snaps on offense, only 4 special team snaps altogether, which was just a bit odd. Just tickled the curious, like
Hmm.
what's all this about? And then yeah, the returns were one of the biggest, the worst points about the game because it was putting us in such a horrible position every time. And I think that was the most deflating
Hmm.
aspect of before we began to mount the comeback was every time we were getting the ball, they were getting us 3 and out. Um, After putting us back inside our own 15, our own 20 at best, it's like there was nothing. We're not getting any good field position. And then we were getting pinned back, punting it away, and then they were getting back to halfway every time. And it was
And
just,
the
it just
offensive play calling was compounding that, right? Because it wasn't like they were taking big shots to get those chunk yards back, so we're in a
yeah,
better
yeah.
position, so that we're maybe in field goal range. So there's the defense has got to worry about us taking shots a little bit. Like we were we were being pinned back inside our own 20 and then running the ball for 3 yards up the middle, like nunchucks.
But yeah, that's it. So I think it's like it's probably a combination of all of it. But specifically talking about Tank Bigsby, I do want to give him a little bit of a not pass, but fight his corner a bit. The the Rams kicker and punter um, specifically were doing this weird kick, a bit like a knuckleball kind of thing in our football over in the UK, in the sense that when you hit the ball, it makes it do weird things, and it's not sort of spiraling or spinning in the way that a conventional punt or kick does, like kickoff does. So it was landing. It's sort of they're doing it more like a lower angled arc. So it's not
Yeah.
going as high. It's doing a few weird things, and as that's coming towards you, you haven't got that time to be looking up, assessing the ball, working out what it's doing, and trying your best to position yourself to either just to catch it or to account for the bounce. You're not getting that. He didn't tank wasn't getting that because the Rams and McVay have come up with this idea, and I don't think they're the only ones to do it either. I think there's a few other teams that have worked out that because of the new NFL kickoff rules and where it's got to land and what you have to do depending on where it lands means that if you get it low and erratic into the landing zone, the returner has to collect it. They can't just let you see a lot of previous seasons when the ball just gets they leave it alone. They're like, I ain't touching that. I'm just going to accept where it lands because it's just not worth trying to catch it, fumbling it, dropping it, getting hit. Risk giving up the ball, giving up the possession. You don't get the opportunity. So it's more. There is a lot of hats off to the Rams for employing that and employing it very well. Um, so I'm going to give Tank a little bit of defense there because I don't think anyone would have done particularly well in those situations. But that being said, combined with the play calling, they didn't help the situation either. So it's ended up being encapsulating into one big shitstorm of
And that's
aspect of the game.
fair, and I'll take your point, but for me, getting paid $1.2 million, catch the bloody ball. All right,
We'll put you
it's
there then, shall we, and see how you get on.
very happy to. I played Gaelic football growing up. I'm probably as good as most for catching high balls kicked my way.
I have seen you catch a ball over the top of a house before. That has to be said.
Oh yeah, that's true. Was that where I kicked it over, ran through the house and caught it?
I can't remember if
No.
you threw it or someone else threw it, but it was
Oh
just
no.
thrown over, and yeah, you had to run through the house, and you managed to
There you go. I'll take it.
kick
I'll
it
take all
over.
the plaudits. Take all the plaudits. No, seriously, I do not want those special teams players running me down. I'd die if they hit me. um, all right. Offensive play calling, Kevin Batula. I'm gonna just go straight to a question about it here, Phil. The first half offensive play calling was the worst I've ever seen. Um, in all of my time following the Eagles, it was like it was moronic. There's no better word for me to use because it was so obvious what needed to happen, and it was either just blind stubbornness or try to be too cute and double, second, triple, quadruple guess like what he should be doing next. It was like, guys, running up the middle is not working. Throw the ball, and it's funny like because I've always listened to Eagles fans over the years be like, just run the ball, just run the ball. Like, every time, like, they just want to see them Eagles pound the rock. They want to be a run first, want to be a run first team. That's why they fell in love with Saquon Barkley so much. So it's funny now to hear them saying the complete opposite: throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. But can you give me any reason why, any justifiable reason why he just kept coming back to the same plays, design runs? It looked like he had no clue whatsoever. Right, so that's my first question, but I'm going to give you two. So question number one: give me any plausible reason why he called the game like he did in the first half. Question two, which I think is the more interesting question: how much of that play calling in the second half was Kevin Batula, and how much was it either A, Sirianni, or B, Jalen just deciding to take the second or third option of whatever play was called?
Yeah, this is the big takeaway. I think outside of all the big plays and the good bits, it's the biggest thing. I think it's the biggest thing to talk about. It's the biggest concern. It's the biggest defining factor in the Eagles season this early on. Like if we don't figure out this now, then we're going to come unstuck next time. Um, the reasons why KP has done it, I think we kind of probably touched on a little bit last week. I think there's a lot of self-preservation about it. I did say that if it carried on, people would run out of patience, and I feel like
But that happened in the first half.
this was the
Yeah.
worst. But this was the worst way that it could have happened this week. If the Eagles had carried on and lost the game, there would have been questions about what's gone on and why is it playing so safe, and now it's not working. We need to change it. The fact that there was such a drastic, significant shift from one half to the other, and the fact that it's quite evident that he was calling plays in the first half and wasn't calling them as much or at all, or maybe he was, but he was let off the leash by Nick Sirianni. Maybe Nick was in on it and like, yeah, let's just get easy into the season. The fact that there's such a dramatic shift now just basically highlights it. It's like magnified. It's black and white.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
it's night and day from one to the other. You can see the difference. So whether he's calling, if it turns out that he was calling plays in the second half, that's the only way that he comes out of this with any kind of modicum of respect. Is that I was playing to not lose, but also I didn't want the team to lose, and I'm trying to protect the team. Or Nick's or Howie or whoever's up top is kind of going, let's just get through. Remember how last season when we were
mhm.
really all over the place until we locked it down. Let's just keep it safe until we figure things out. Unless he comes out and says, yeah, I was calling plays, but I was allowed, well, not allowed, but I was given permission or whatever however you want to frame it, to say like you can use the B side of the playbook.
Mm.
Um, I feel like this is very damning, and it's problematic from so many different ways. Because if that is the case, and he was taking out play calling, then why do you have what's the point in an OC that's not calling offensive plays? He's just a straw man, like we often refer to Nick Sirianni. If he isn't calling plays,
You
who is calling
used
plays?
to. Yeah, I don't think anyone would call him that anymore after the
No,
Super Bowl
no,
win. But
used to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's what I mean is like, in the sense that
No, I
that's
get you. I
how
hear
we
you.
viewed him in that point. If
Mhm.
if Jalen, we can't have your quarterback being the offensive coordinator. I mean, as much as it might work in the second half when you're trying to lead a comeback and you've got that momentum, you're not going to have that moving forward. So what is happening? Who is going to be calling plays? What is the situation? And that's the problem I have, is that we're now sat here going like, great, there was a shift and the Eagles won because of that shift. But now what do we do about it? Now we know
Mm.
it's all for the world to see. Everyone has seen that the game that was being called in the first half was dog shit, and the game that was being called in the second half was the mirror opposite. Um, it's like, what does we need to know more information, and that's the problem I have. And that's the
Well, we
concern I
we
have.
we won't. I mean, Sirianni. He came out. Sirianni came out and said Kevin Petullo was calling the plays in the second half. But that's what Nick Sirianni does. He is a cover flyer blanket for
Mm.
his players and all of his staff. If he thought it would be, if he thought it was beneficial for him to say he would have done. He only thinks about the team and the individuals that he leads. Um, I think it's pretty obvious to me that Jalen Hurts. I think this was more of a Jalen Hurts conversation in a halftime. I think this was more of a, like you say play to not lose earlier, and I remember we saying that. I'm thinking, yeah, that doesn't strike me as the culture of what we've been building these last few years in the Eagles organization. I get play to not lose when it comes to a not taking the bomb shots, not putting the ball in harm's way, not turning the ball over. Yeah, that's definitely a cultural thing that the Eagles do. They protect the ball, but they're also a very aggressive team. They're a very aggressive team, and they want to win. There's a reason they've won 19 of the last 20 games in a row. Is because they want to win, and I don't think the play calling was vanilla. There was no creativity whatsoever, and we saw it on the field last week when Jalen kind of wasn't very happy at Sirianni when we didn't go for it on fourth down and we took the field goal. Um, Jalen was evidently frustrated and vocal on the pitch, and I truly believe that Jalen would have said something at halftime, probably to both KP and Sirianni, rather than just KP, and basically said, "Hey, you guys need to let me put the team on my back here. You need to let me go feed AJ and Devontae. We are 19 points down. We need to get back in this game." So I actually think it was probably more. My personal opinion is was probably Jalen that had that conversation. You got to bear in mind, Jalen turns offensive coordinators into head coaches, right? He's done it like Shane Steichen, Brian Dable, um, the, the guy we had last year. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. They none of them had head coaching experience at jobs before they with Jalen. Um, Jalen is he's elite. He's an all star. He put the team on his back again, and we're going to talk about him in a bit. But I'm with you, Phil. I'm seriously concerned by the play calling we saw in the first half, because whatever we did in the second half which was clearly not just KP. I refuse to believe that was just KP. You don't go in with a game plan like that and completely switch the narrative. Remember Vic Fangio saying last week that you don't really change much at halftime. You're constantly changing during the game. Like him saying that alone knows that this was a stark change in approach. It was black and white, as you said, Phil, change in approach. And if that was off the fly, then that's not sustainable. There needs to be a more sustainable, consistent solution to
It,
fix the offensive side of the ball.
I honestly believe that it has to be a case of um, unlocking more of the playbook and being sort of kept on a light version of the playbook whilst things get set up. Don't give the ball away. Don't do anything drastic. And whether KP sort of taken that literally and gone, right, I'm not going to throw it. I'm not going to do
Mhm.
anything that's going to potentially even like all very low risk plays and very uncreative plays. And you can make the argument as well. Let's not give too much away, but I think this is way too extreme for that. This is not trying to keep your key, your Lions, Dan Campbell type plays in your
Yeah,
locker until
yeah,
the end of the
yeah.
season. This is just like this is not using AJ Brown, your bread and butter, not using Dallas Goddard, your bread and butter, to get out of tight spots, to get down the field. Devontae Smith, your clutch guy in those tight window throws. Basically everything that happened in the second half, it's like, okay, so why are you not using that? That's not a secret. Like that
No,
is
I
this
know.
team. You've got these players and you're not using them. That's not like, oh, I didn't see this coming. They just ran it down our throat. Yeah, we ran it down their throat last year. Do you think they didn't account for that? And
Yeah.
that's the real most teams have done with Saquon Barkley, is that they are now just going, let's just take him and AJ Brown out of the game, which has been evident in the first two games.
Hmm.
Just take those two away, and you're kind of forcing Jalen to put it into to dangerous areas potentially, or more dangerous areas. So I kind
Hmm.
of get that a little bit, but yeah, going forward, it's going to be key. We've got Tampa Bay. We're going down. The team are going down a day early.
Hmm.
It's going to be under the microscope. The first drive is going to be so scrutinized.
Yeah, it will be. And God, isn't it great? Eagles are 3-0. We're spending the minute 10 to 30 talking about everything that went wrong. But that's it's our job. That's what we're here. That's what we're here to do. It's for me, like, it's common sense. When you have someone like Saquon Barkley who can turn the game on a twist of an ankle, you know, drop of a shoulder, you need to break their spirit in the passing game first. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the opposition are not scared about Jalen Hurts throwing the ball, then they're going to do everything to stop the run, which is what we've seen. He's averaging like what 3 yards a carry since the start of the season, Saquon. Um, you've got to show them that we're a threat through the air, because as soon as you show them we're a threat through the air, and they have to account for more of that, then the run game opens up, and they're not stacking the box so much because they're also scared about Jalen throwing the ball. So for me, the ideal way to run this team with the personnel that we have is kill them with some early big shots through the air and then grind them down on the ground afterwards, because then they're accounting for both. And at the moment, they're not doing that. They were trying to grind it down on the ground and trying to get those attritional yards, and then then it was second half was desperation mode. It was all right. Well, we need to sling it, and shout out to AJ Brown. I know we'll talk to him in a second, but man, that guy is good on contested catches. I don't think there's a better player in the NFL at contested catches than AJ Brown. All right. Also in the bad column, Saquon Barkley. Sorry, Saquon, but you were ineffective. We can't put you in the good column. And we expect more out of our talismanic running back. I still obviously have no concerns about you moving forward, but if we're going to stick to the rules of the good, the bad, and the damn right sexy, you didn't have a great game, but right, you didn't break away from. You had a couple of good first downs and important moments, and I recognize that, and I think I said that on Sunday. But you didn't have your best game. So if we're gonna have you in the bad column at any point, let's have you now rather than later in the season. Want to bring up Matt Pryor just quickly before we move on to the good section. Phil, he came in for Lane Johnson when he was hurt. Have you heard any news about Lane on the injury front so far?
Just that it was a stinger and that he's expected to be back next week, so
Okay,
was precautionary. So
great.
some to an extent.
Perfect. Well, that's great to hear. Um, But Matt Pryor came in, and it was Pryor who missed the block, and Jared Verse who forced the Jalen Hurts fumble that led to the Rams' second touchdown. And then, while Pryor was in there, and shout out to Ruben Frank for this stat here, he played five down drives after Lane left the game, and on those drives netted negative minus 10 yards and no points. Wow, that's damning. Um, to put it into perspective and to give a positive spin on this, when Fred Johnson came in, he played four drives. The Eagles netted 260 yards and three touchdowns. So I don't think it's Pryor's fault so much. He's more of a guard than a right tackle, but it was great to see. It was great to see Fred. We had a different Johnson out there, but he played up to his namesake, and just fantastic news for the Eagles because Fred's a swing tackle. He can play left and right. And to have someone like that in there, knowing that your whole offense is not going to crumble if Myalata and Lane go down, obviously you never want that to Pro Bowl, tackles. Um, but if he does, it's good to know we have someone who can step in. And I'm not saying he's going to be, a big reason why the Eagles go win the Super Bowl this year, but certainly provides me a lot of confidence that there's depth there.
Yeah, uh, it's a strange, but why we let him go, and obviously there's obviously the reason why we kind of traded picks to get him back, even though we probably could have re-signed him.
Mm.
In the meantime, I think it just goes to show how important he was last year and previous um, games with the Eagles, being such a valuable backup. We felt that kind of last year, even though Lane didn't really go down.
Mm.
He Fred was sort of present in games where other tackles, I think,
Yeah,
Marlata have gone down as well.
he had an
Um,
impact on games last year for sure in the
he
Super Bowl
definitely
win.
did, and I
Mhm.
think he was a big loss when he was gone. Everyone said, "Oh, like Fred was like super like good for exactly the reason, like you said." Lane,
Also a great guy as well, by all accounts. Just seems like a
great guy,
wonderful
um,
human being.
but it's one of the big what ifs, like when people have those discussions about who is the most important Eagles
Yeah,
player, and
yeah.
Lane Johnson is always usually at the top, not necessarily
Mhm.
because of how good he is alone, but how irreplaceable he is in that team, and having someone like Fred Johnson, and which was evident against the Rams, is that he is the guy that we need to have as a depth piece and just that safety net, just to make us all feel a little bit more comfortable, but also because he's got the ability to play damn fine and in
Mhm.
when he's called upon, either on the left or the right side. And I think you're right when you're talking about Pryor. Pryor is more of a guard, and it was I don't know
He's been
why
serviceable in the past for the Eagles
he
at the
has,
guard.
but I don't know
Yeah.
why. The question is why was Pryor ahead of Fred Johnson if the Eagles and Jeff Stoutland know how good and versatile he is. So the fact that they persisted with Pryor for so long, why Pryor was the first choice to come in, maybe he's more prepared. I don't know. There might be like nuanced reasons going it's easier to do and hoping that Pryor is serviceable. He just wasn't serviceable, and it wasn't until Fred decided to come in that the extreme noticeable shift. That point in the game coincided with him coming in the game, giving Jalen the confidence and the ability to go forward and march the team back to the comeback win. But yeah, super super disappointing from Pryor, but just made it more epic when Fred came in.
Yeah, I've just been looking at some stats while you were chatting there, um, uh, and also like he's got experience playing guard, so a bit like Matt Pryor, where Matt was guard, could play tackle. Fred's more of a tackle that can play guard. Well, maybe I'm overstating this, but he could be a really valuable player for the Eagles for years to come. Just as that rotational piece. I mean, who knows? Maybe he does make a huge leap. He's still only 28 years of age. He's only just turned 28. He's 6'7", 330 pounds. He's a beast. He's got the size for it, and he's got experience working under Stout. And they thought enough of him to bring him back, and the proof was in the pudding yesterday with the difference in the way they played. Shout out to Fred Johnson, buddy. Well done. All right, let's talk about the good. All right, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, Philip, and talk to me about AJ Brown and the game he had for the Birds this Sunday. Oh, are you on mute, sir?
I am
Is this gonna
sorry.
be a
I'm coming out of a
oh, here we
I'm
go.
coming out of a cold, so every time I mute myself, it's because I'm trying to clear my throat so I don't sound like I'm nasally. But anyway, yes, my bad.
Yep,
New streaming platform. I'm blaming that. Um,
yep, you do that.
so yeah, we've kind of touched on it already. That AJ Brown is it's the first two games of the season, inconceivable how little he was used. There's talk of the fact that teams were taking away just double team AJ Brown, take your chances with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard. Dallas Goddard was out versus the Chiefs, which is another reason why that game plan would be very effective. But it doesn't matter because AJ Brown is always open. AJ Brown should be being targeted regardless of what the game plan is because we know his ability and how good this guy is and this
He should be
game.
getting 10 targets a game minimum.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing to be honest that we haven't heard more from the locker room from his interviews because he'd be well within his rights to be sitting there, Castellana style, kicking off and
Mhm.
saying whatever he wants because we know how good he is and we know that he should be playing and he knows everyone will agree with him. But he hasn't. To his credit, he's been very quiet. He's been very like they've just schemed against me and what can I do about it? But you can tell that that wouldn't last very long, much like the offensive play calling. Um, Placating of the fans going, yeah, okay, well, we'll give you a bit of time. Eventually, it was going to happen, and that second half turnaround and AJ Brown getting over 100 yards, touchdown, and being back to his usual stuff, like a stereotypical AJ Brown performance. 100 under his belt without even trying, touchdown, obviously, um, and just generally being that guy on those big plays, where long or short, being the guy that you get the ball to, and he's the one getting the first down, and that was his first that long catch down the right hash sideline, um, was the moment, the
It
turning
was.
point, not necessarily the moment of the game, but it was a turning point because I think as soon as you saw that, it's like, oh, they can throw. See what happens when you throw to AJ Brown, or blah 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 blah. All those kind of stereotypical things, people tongue in cheek. But ultimately, I think everyone's got that genuine relief, going, oh, they are going to actually do this. They're actually going to use their heads now and go, let's just let's just keep it simple, stupid. Get it to our best guy. Get it down the field. And as soon as he was in, you just kind of got that feeling like, okay, they're on the right track now. This should be, time allowing, this should be Eagles marching back into the game and hopefully to a win. And
And they
it
did.
turned out that way.
It did, yeah. Well said. That catch from AJ Brown is one of the Loch Lomond Play of the Week candidates. And I'm going to do a nice segue here into Jalen Hurts because that ball from Jalen Hurts was an absolute laser dime. Like he could not have thrown that any better over the quarterback's head, over AJ's head, literally in stride, right into his hands in double coverage.
Not
It
quite
was
right into
a
his hands, but yeah, I know.
he tipped it around a little bit. It was the only place he could catch the ball with the coverage that AJ had.
I, I think it's all right. I think
Um,
it
so-
was sorry, just I think it was a little bit. I think we do have to admit that there was a little bit of fortune with that because AJ's admitting himself he had no idea it just fell into his hands. Which speaks, supports your
but
argument
that's
about
what I
Jalen Hurts
mean.
in the past.
Yeah, yeah,
But there is
yeah.
an element of fortune because it was just and it stayed there because we've seen it could have so easily have just bobbled out and just been another
Yeah, no, I
incompletion.
completely agree. But without Jalen putting it exactly where it was, it never would have been a play and it never would have ignited the game, which kind of backs up my point of how good that throw was from Jalen. I do note the look of AJ didn't cling on to, but also a great job that he did, and his reactions were so good to be able to secure that ball. Um, this offense, the second half play calling, Jalen Hurts, everything about that second half performance is what Eagles fans have been clamoring to hear, clamoring to see, I should say, for the first two games of the season so far, and we didn't see it until the second half. Hertz was electric. He was elite. He was composed. He was calm. He was accurate, um, and he put the team on his back. I mean, he had 17 of 24 for 209 yards and three touchdown passes in the second half. Everyone jumping on his back that he only runs for touchdowns. Come on, this guy is he is probably the most accurate passer in the NFL right now. He probably is the most accurate passer in the NFL right now. I'm pretty sure he's up there in the top 2 or 3 in percentage completions. I'm not going to go on and on about Jalen Hurts because I did that in defense of him in the last 2 podcasts. I'm just going to let Jalen Hurts' play speak for himself here. Just an incredible performance by him, incredible throws, clutch moments, finding Devontae, finding AJ Brown. He engineered and drove touchdown drives of 79 yards, 87 yards, and 91 yards. Not like we were getting the ball back in their territory. He drove the ball down the field 3 times to score the touchdowns we needed to get us back in the game. We don't win that game without Jalen Hurts as our quarterback. There was some MVP chance at the end of the game. In my opinion, the way he has generaled the team over the last 3 games to wins against 3 of the hardest teams and opponents that we could play in the NFL just speaks volumes. And I think this is the moment where the Eagles kick on. I think this is the moment where the Eagles offense kicks on. I think the passing game is going to be much better, much stronger. The Eagles haven't really played a full 60 minutes of football yet, not properly. They've put quarter here together, a half here together, and they've ground out games and they've still beat these teams. Um, and I think the Eagles are going to I, I think the Eagles are going to destroy the Bucks next year, which I know is not a very popular opinion based on a record, and we'll get to our preview later on. But I think the Eagles are going to beat the Bucks, and I don't even think it's going to be close next week. And I think we're going to see even more from Jalen Hurts. If you don't have Jordan Davis, if you don't have AJ Brown, Hurts is a walkaway win for Oklahoma Player of the Week, for the Damn Right Sexy Award, for all of the above. Just a magical game from one of the best quarterbacks, top 3. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Like I said that the other day, I think he's the best all-round quarterback in the NFL right now, and I would love for someone to come and argue that point with me.
You're not going to get
Not
much.
you necessarily.
No, you're not going to get much argument from me on this occasion specifically, but um, it is amazing how much we still find that people enjoy doubting Jalen or criticizing him for whatever reason. I've seen plenty of videos this week as well, people defending him, people attacking, still finding
Yeah,
reasons to criticize him. It just gets boring after a while. It
it
just goes
does.
to show that he can do anything at any given time, and he is being limited most often by play
Hmm.
calling or decisions outside of him. And once he gets involved, it's like why would we not trusting Jalen? Why are we not trusting him to do what he needs to do? Because he knows how to do it. He's proven he's done it on the biggest stage. He's obliterated the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's shown that he has done it. But yet we still get these situations where, like, oh, maybe they're trying to protect the team and trying to protect Jalen. I'm paraphrasing myself here. Like, I'm guessing Patullo's worried about that. Why are you worried about it? The only thing I can think of, like I said, is because um, they just don't want to start the season off poorly. That's all it was to do with. And I just hope that going forward, it's like, right, the training, not training wheels, but the leash is getting taken off. Go and run the offense now, Jalen. We've got the 3 game cushion. We can afford to be a little bit more risk averse and let him do what he needs to do and what we know he can do, and hopefully that second half is indicative, like you said. That's it, where the Eagles kick on now and we go down to Tampa Bay. And I will also kind of share a little bit of your optimism going down to Tampa because of the result, but purely from the perspective of, this is a bogey game and it's a Jalen bogey game. Jalen Hurts has probably had this circled on his calendar
Yeah.
since the schedule got announced. Oh, the Bucks again. This time, this time we're going down to Tampa Bay, and he is going to do everything within his power to banish the fact that that's probably the one black mark that people still continue to beat him with. The 2023 playoff loss, the 2021 playoff loss, both in Tampa Bay, both kind of humiliating.
Lost
Uh,
last year in Game 4.
Game 4, it's just like, it just feels like, so like I said, the team are planning to head down a day early. So that there's serious discussions. They do not want to go down to Tampa Bay and have the same thing happen again. Yes, there might be other reasons, such as Mike Evans has now got an injury, which is a little bit of a plus. But Egbuka has been absolutely amazing. I'm trying not to get into the preview. I know we've got said that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
generally, but looking ahead, I do share the optimism because purely, I just don't think that the Eagles can allow themselves to go down there again and have history repeat itself yet again. We can't have that monkey on our back. We have to banish it, and I feel like they're going to be doing everything they can to do that.
Here, here. Love all of that. All right, let me do a few shout outs here to some players, and then we'll get into the player of the game. Zach Bond. Um, the interception was amazing. The way he judged it, the way he read it, the way he executed it, all of the above. What was really obvious again, and this is the second time I'm saying this, watching a game live at the link in the regular season this year, in the first, he just seemed to be everywhere in the first half. Any type of defensive play was Zach Bonner. He had I've written down 7 sacks in my notes. He had 7 tackles, not sacks, which isn't like the most he's ever had in a game. He's had more than 10, 11, 12 at times. But in the first half specifically, had Zach Bonner not been there, that game could have been dead and buried. I don't think the Eagles. I've said this about a few players. The Eagles don't win this game without Zach Bond the way he played in the first half, because they would have been out of here, but we wouldn't have been able to get back. It would have been more than 19 points. I want to shout out to Nick Sirianni. I don't know what he said at halftime. You remember the film Space Jam, where I can't remember who it is. Bugs Bunny does Michael's special stuff and puts in a little bottle, and they all take a swig out of it, and then they go out and play incredible afterwards. Whatever Nick Sirianni said at halftime, they gotta bottle that up and drink it whenever they need to, because just another great example of Sirianni and Jalen in a position where the team is 99 times out of 100 going to lose. Their leadership, their perseverance, they help the team turn around and win the game. So shout out to Nick for just an incredible job in general. 19 games out of 20, and that other game that we lost in the last 20 was when Jalen went down in the first quarter. Just sensational stuff. Shout out to Devontae Smith. Didn't quite have the numbers, but he still had 8 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Tough player. It's so funny to call him a bridesmaid to AJ Brown rather than the bride, because he's a wide receiver one in, I think, all of our eyes. Another really solid game with great stats again. Just continuing to do what everyone thought he wouldn't do coming out of the combine, being 170 pounds. We mentioned Fred Johnson. I want to shout out to Braden Mann, 222 yards on 4 punts, averaging over 55 yards per punt. Even more impressive that one of those was a short punt. So the other three must have been averaging 65 or more. But before I go any further, there's one guy we gotta talk about, Phil, and I want to give you the microphone for it. Talk to me about our damn right sexy, because it has to be the big guy, the bull, Jordan Davis.
Yeah. I did this week. We put it in the chat to determine the damn right sex, as if we thought it was going to be anything other than Jordan Davis. But I was just conscious
Oh,
that
we did. I missed that.
yeah. Well, you were in euphoria in the link at
Okay.
the time, so you would have missed that.
Yeah.
But I decided to put it in the group. That's why I changed it, because I know you had originally had Jalen Hurts named as the damn right
Yeah.
sexy. But I
Yep.
feel like
Yep.
I put it out and it was unanimous in terms of the voting. You'd be surprised that Jalen wasn't even the second most popular.
Mm,
Fred was
AJ
the
Brown.
no.
Fred.
Fred
Oh, shout out to Fred.
was the second place in the Dynamite section, but not even close, 4 to like 16
Yeah.
votes.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, John Davis. It's just, I mean, coming into the season, he lost a lot of weight, and everyone's going, "Oh, he looks really lean," and I'm like, "Okay, it's quite a drastic shift in his appearance and physique. This could go one of two ways. It's either going to go really, really well or really, really bad, and he's not going to be on the Eagles after the season, because if you can't, if he was doing okay, but if this doesn't improve it and it makes it worse, then we're out of ideas with you, man."
Yep.
But he's come in this season so far. Obviously, the first game against the Cowboys, forced to step up and increase his snap percentage, double it. Tick did that quite happily. Player on the defense in that game, and then in this game, along with Jalen Carter, really just showed out. And we're not going to beat around the bush. Obviously, the two blocked field goals are the highlight of it, and the one return for a touchdown is the epic moment of the game. It's going to get replayed over and over again in
Hmm.
season highlights, NFL highlights, you name it. It's going to be doing the rounds for Eternia to come. There's going to be a Jordan Spector print on it, like you mentioned.
Hmm.
But the fact that he's worked on himself so much and really impressing so far in this season is such a huge positive sign from him, because we really needed him to step up with Jalen Carter being the guy he is. And not going to touch on it too much, but Jalen Carter's a couple of issues so far this season, particularly in the first game, and in this game I've seen a couple of highlights where he's there was a highlight where someone's making out that he didn't make much effort. I'm not going to read too much into it, but then he got the taunting penalty because he was coming off the field in this game, which cost the Eagles yardage again in short term. When the fact that we're getting pinned back all the time, you don't need that. So there's a few bits about Jalen Carter which I'm not too content about. So you need people like Jalen Davis to be stepping up. And this game was the Jordan Davis game. The title of the
Well,
episode of the podcast, it is the Jordan Davis game, because without him, we do not win this game. We get absolutely trounced, because they would have scored an extra field goal and probably won the game anyway, without being coming down to the final kick of the game. It's it's just incredible to have him there and to be working so well. And I feel like there's just so many things you could say about him, but it's just the fact that he's doing what has been expected of him, and you can't ask anything more than that. And the fact that he's finally got his game is just incredible and joyous to behold. And watching him run, I've seen the memes. Um, his running style definitely is one to not too pleasing for the eye, but you just don't care when he's running in for touchdown and a walk-off win for the Eagles.
you don't care when he's running 18.67 miles per hour, whatever it was, which is the fastest recorded speed of anyone over 330 pounds in the NFL since the stats have been monitored. So, I mean, talk about speed and power. Um, right, many bigger or stronger or quicker at that speed than Jordan Davis. All right, we'll put out the Loch Lomond play of the week to Tony to decide between the Jordan Davis blocked and touchdown run, the Zach Bond interception, and the Jalen's laser dart to AJ Brown. And congratulations for the Damn Rat Sexy Award goes to Jordan Davis. Congratulations, sir. And hopefully many more to come this year. All right, we'll do a very quick preview of the books, and then we'll wrap it up here. Phil, I know we touched on it a little bit already. Um, I'm gonna take it away here for a sec. So the books are 3-0, but the books could easily be 0-3. They haven't won a game by more than 3 points so far this year. They beat the Falcons 23-20, the Texans 20-19, and the Jets 29-27. I don't see many people talking about that. By the way, these three teams that they beat by 3 points or less are all 0-3 this year. So they've barely beaten 0-3 teams for the first three games of the
Falcons
year.
got shut out as well this week.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So the Bucks defense clearly not great. I mean, conceding 29 points to the Jets kind of says it all, really. Um, so, as I said, I feel really confident about the Eagles. Like, I'm going to be checking that spread out. I'm going to be looking at those alternative lines, and I think the Eagles are going to win comfortably. The weather will be a big factor. There is no doubt. It's currently set to be a real feel of 100 degrees Fahrenheit with high humidity in Tampa next Sunday. And of course, the Eagles did get blown out last year in similar heat. We'll be looking to avoid that. The Mike Evans narrative helps. He's out now for the next 4 weeks, and the current injury report for the Bucks has Evans out. Obviously, they've also got Cody Mock at guard out, offensive tackle Luke Gadecki out, Kalijah Cansey defensive tackle out, and Jalen McMillan also out. Questionable is Chris Godwin Jr., their wide receiver 2/3, with obviously Ibuka now in the fold. He hasn't played so far this season. He could be back this week, but we don't know. Likewise, huge miss for them is Tristan Wirfs. He's recovering from a knee surgery he had in July. There's a potential he could recover this week. But if he doesn't, not having two of their offensive tackles and not having their 1-2 wide receivers alongside how their defense has performed against 3-0-3 teams, I'm feeling pretty bulgy about this, Phil. What about you?
You make some very, very, very good points there, and I think it is literally just the fact that it's always been going down to Tampa Bay has been a very trap game type thing for us, especially being an overconfident 3-0. Well, not necessarily overconfident, but coming in high off the 3-0, and just we've got problems of our own as we've discussed so far. there's definitely a chance for us to go down there and be overconfident and then fall into that trap once again. And Baker Mayfield, as we know, has a bit of a renaissance down there
Mm.
and is a formidable top
He's a
top
great
ten
quarterback.
top 10 quarterback, I guess, over the
Yeah,
last couple of seasons in terms of stats and how he's performed. And
I'd probably put him
no
in top seven. Yeah.
and I think that you just have to go down there and be wary and be prepared. And I feel like I said, the going down the day early for the acclimatization or acclimated, as Gail would say, to be acclimated to the weather going down there before we go there is it just shows that the attitude's
Smart.
right going into there. Like the team is focused on not letting the same history repeat itself. Um, and with the injuries that they've got and the issues that Tampa Bay have, um, I'm kind of in the position where I don't see why we can't or shouldn't go down there and win. The bits that are holding me back are obviously the bits of our own making, which are what's the play calling going to be like, which
Mhm,
which what kind of offense are we going to see
mhm.
on the first drive going down in Tampa. Once those get answered early on Sunday, I will probably be much more relaxed and much more confident. But until then, I'm just very wary of it being that trap game and the Eagles making a mistake or not fixing the things that that were clearly evident the first three games of the season.
Yeah, and all good points. I would not be surprised for that to happen. Yeah, I'm probably on the more confident side this time around. Certainly more confident than I was going into the Rams this weekend. Um,
Yeah, I'd give you
yeah,
that.
yeah. Let us know what you think. Let us know your predictions on comment on our podcast on social media. Let us know your thoughts. What's going to happen this coming Sunday? Obviously an away game, so I will be watching virtually, like you all will be. Um, but yeah, that pretty much about wraps it up for this episode of the British and Irish Eagles. The Eagles are 3-0. They are on their way back to another Super Bowl if they continue on this trajectory. Hopefully, we'll see improvements in the coming weeks with the challenges that we've seen so far. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there in Tampa. Anyone going? Enjoy yourselves. Otherwise, go Birds.
Go Birds.